Good afternoon, everyone. We're here this afternoon to take a look at what's up and what's coming for the high school assessments. Please understand that if you have questions, there will be chances to stop and ask questions. Sarah is going to be taking some notes, some general notes in the agenda. And so between Sarah and I, we will probably be monitoring the chat. So if something comes up, either put something in the chat, raise your hand. We'll try and get you as quickly as possible. But because we're a small group, also, if you want to just jump in, add applause, that would be great. Hey, Allison, nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Laz, I'm glad you're here. Laz is from the STEM Academy program at Madison College. Allison is from the IAE and so supports many different programs. Jason, welcome. Jason is from Capitol High. Ben is from Memorial. We also have Sharon, who is here, who is the Director of Advanced Learners. Jessica, who is at the IIP program, formerly of Olin Avenue. I think you guys are moved. And Peg Moran Hussein is here from Student Services. So then Sarah and I are your hosts. Let's go to the PowerPoint and we'll get rolling. All right, so welcome everyone. We will do this approximately monthly, just because I want to make sure that we keep everyone up to date, but also there's things that are constantly changing and we're looking for some feedback. So really the purpose of this meeting is to ensure that you understand that there's more than just you out there doing this, that there are people who have done this before, maybe not in your exact situation, but we are working together and it's better to do this together than not. I'm going to already stop and just show you where we're located on the new website as far as information and resources. So if we were to jump to the staff only side, and Laz, I know you probably don't have access to this, but I'll make sure that you get the information that's needed. I will probably post this elsewhere. So if you go to high school assessments, you'll end up seeing that we list them by grade as well as by name, but right underneath resources, there is an assessment coordinator's resource page. And so I'm going to jump to that. That's where you will find the agendas for the meetings that we have. We're going to use a Google Doc this year and just continually add the next agenda onto the top of the old one. So you'll see the notes, you'll see the links with documents built into it. Also, here is where you can find the slides that we're going to be using. And then since we are recording this, I am going to be putting this on the web page as we move ahead. Also on this page is a calendar that you can kind of see when the state, or excuse me, the district windows are for all the assessments. This one is specifically designed for high school. And finally, we're going to have a kind of a document that includes dates coming up and when things that you need to know are going to happen. Not only things that you do, but also things that we do, so that you know, for instance, when the date is for students to be uploaded for access testing into the state window. So that'll be coming and it'll provide you with a 1, 2, and 3 month view as to what's coming. All right, so that's where you can find the resources. Always understand that if we are, if you can't find things, send either Sarah or myself an email and we will get share that with you right away. So, all right. So today we're going to be talking about current issues with ACT and some of the things that are coming. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the civics test. We'll look at Aspire, have a decision to have input on regarding Aspire, and then we'll be talking about AP exams. And it won't necessarily be in that order. So here's what we know, that if you ask questions, we're going to help support you better. If you think of a question when we're finished with the meeting, please don't hesitate to email us. Also, I will be giving you my personal cell phone number after we stop recording, and you can text or call at any time, because I know it's really important that you're able to connect with someone and get answers, especially if we're inside of a test window.
Tim, before we move on,
Yep.
do you want to just very briefly update everyone on the our new department setting and the new resources available?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So not only have we physically moved from the second floor in Doyle to the first floor in Doyle, we've moved departments. So our current department is, we are a part of assessment and learning supports. And as such, we have team members who are really focused on working with you and the data that comes from these assessments. And so that's what their role is. And for the high school, the secondary, no, excuse me, just for high school, Kira Hicks works with us, and she unfortunately couldn't be at this meeting, but she is a wealth of knowledge, those of you who have worked with her. And her goal is to work seamlessly with us and with you to take it from doing the assessment to getting the data and using the data to improve instruction for all students. So you will see assessment and learning supports instead of the old Office of Research, Accountability, and Data Use. Thanks, Sarah. Okay. So we are currently taking a look at the topic right now is both the ACT and national testing. So I have vouchers that I've got and I've been giving out to students from last year. So we'll talk about that in a little bit detail in a moment. But one of the things that's come up is consistency, especially around the PSAT across the district. And this has been raised by by families. And so not wanting to get involved too deeply in this, I want to help support as conversations move forward. The question that I have, and we cannot answer this today, I don't want to answer it today, but I want you to think about this because we do need to address this. Does our current system of testing the SAT, the ACT on weekends, the PSAT when that is appropriate, does that system work for all of our students? I do want to keep that in mind and focus as we talk about what some of the issues are as we go forward. Really, it needs to be something that is forefront in our conversation. So the vouchers that I have are for students who were not able to take the ACT on April 13th. So when they were juniors last year, if you'll remember, and I'm sure it's hard to forget, we were in the midst of debating whether we're going to bring students back, how quickly we were going to be coming back. We had some elementary students coming back into in-person from virtual. The state picked the dates. The 13th of April was the latest date that we could possibly test. And so we did that on April 13th, and there were hundreds of students who did not feel comfortable coming back to take the test. The state testing is only allowed in person. And so one of the things that to me was very important was that we do allow students to have that opportunity to take an ACT with writing paid for, so that they would have an opportunity to do that the economics of the world did not get in the way. So I have 300 vouchers. I have essentially given out a little over 200 already. So who is this for? First of all, if a student did take the test on April 13th, it is not for them. We're not giving vouchers to take the test again. Even though that may be economically, they may say, yeah, but I really can't afford to and I want to. That's not what these are for. I want to make sure that people who did not get that opportunity have the opportunity. It is for current seniors only. And the vouchers are whenever I get a request, they're assigned specifically. There's a code in the upper right-hand corner. This particular voucher is an image of a voucher, and I've taken the code out of it. But please understand that the code is unique to each voucher. The cost of each one is $85. So it is not a free voucher. And there is a process to use the voucher that's outlined at the bottom of this particular document. So if you were to look down at the bottom of the voucher, it says, here's how to use the voucher. So you would go in, students will go in, and if they have not already done it, they need to create a My ACT account. I've done this. And so I have a My ACT account now. I've done this and recorded it so that they can see what the process is. And that was also on the ACT page that we built. Follow the instructions on the voucher. It takes you through, there's a shopping cart, there's a place to put a discount code. That's where the voucher code goes. Keep in mind that this is only for national test dates. It's only the Saturday dates, only good for the ACT, and it's only good for this particular academic year. So I know seniors, if they are applying for colleges or if they intend to, the pressure is on. So really there's the October 23rd test date and then the December 11th test date coming up. But it's good, the voucher is good for any test date this academic year. It is not good to include late payment fees. So if a student wanted to register and they missed the first registration deadline, there are ways to register for the ACT. It involves a $40 late fee in some cases. That would have to be paid for out of pocket, and this voucher will not cover that. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on what the vouchers look like. There is a phone number on the voucher. So if the student has trouble signing in, keep in mind that these are all letters. So there's a letter O. It is not a 0, but there is a phone number that students can call that is listed down here. It's 319 area code. So you can give that a call if they have difficulty getting in. I will continue to give out the vouchers until I have no more. And I've been working with with the guidance teams at each of the schools to ensure that appropriate students get them.
So Tim, just a question, because I don't believe that we were involved in actually communicating with the students who were eligible for vouchers. You did all that, correct? It was not anything that was that we were supposed to do. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing having sent a communication to families about this.
No, this was done, I believe, through the family newsletter, and it was done out of the district office. I did not actually do it personally, and so I was not involved in that. So,
but you've gotten 200 vouchers from various schools, so
yes.
It's not like anybody is.
Yes, every school is represented. Yep.
Great. That's all I wanted to know. Is that?
Yep. Thank you. So something that we have coming up. So there's been a lot of questions around, especially looking at the PSAT coming up, because that's the first one that's on the agenda. It's coming up really quickly. In looking at the current status of where things are at, MMSD students are the only ones allowed to test at MMSD test facilities. So that means students from other districts, homeschool students, students attending private parochial. Unfortunately, we cannot at this time have them come in, and I think this has been communicated through Cindy Green to principals, and so that's one way we're trying to keep our students safe. Safe testing protocols, things like masking and spacing, of course, are mandatory, and the spacing should not be an issue, as we're typically looking at 6 feet of spacing for testing anyways. As I said earlier, the PSAT, looking at consistencies of how much students pay, but then also for our staff, how much they are paid to proctor the PSAT. This is not an issue that's going to be resolved this year. There's no reason to stress this. It's been raised. It's an ongoing process, and we will be looking at that. I know that this is going to be an issue that's coming, and I just wanted to give you a heads up. So looking at equity across the board. So again, how much students pay, and then how much staff are paid to help provide the proctoring. I'm just going to stop here for a second and see if there are any other questions. Okay, then let's keep going. All right, you'll recall, if you've been in the district for a little while, or if you've been in Wisconsin for a little while, that we have a civics test. The civics test is one of the few graduation requirements that the state has put out there. A number of credits earned, in what specific content areas, and the civics test. You have to meet the requirements for that. The civics test is, by state law, the 100 questions from the U.S. Citizenship and Naturalization exam. We had also, one of the interesting things is the state did not, they completely bypassed DPI. So this is not an assessment that is in any way, shape, or form a platform that is standardized across the state. So every single district in the state has to do this on their own. So when there is an election at the state and national level, we pull our exam back and re-evaluate it, look at all the questions, make sure that the answers are correct and that they are there, and that's ready to roll. So that's kind of the background for this. Some more information about this. Students must score at or above 65% correct. So of the 100 questions, they have to get 65% correct. And that is what is the state requirement. However, if students have an IEP, they do not have to achieve the 65% level in order to meet the requirements. There is no requirement for students who have an IEP. We have put together multiple ways of taking the assessment. So we provide the opportunity for students in many different ways. So from print copies to American Sign Language, we have this. Also, one thing that's not listed here, if a student requests this exam in a specific language, we must provide that for them. Currently, I have the assessment translated into approximately 14 or 15 languages, Spanish being the one that has been requested most. It is not requested often because the civics test, the social studies experience that most students receive is in fact in English. So it's very rare that I have someone who does ask for a test in another language. But if that's the case, please let me know and we'll get that taken care of. What is put on the transcripts is simply met. They met the requirement. They did not meet the requirement is left off. So it's just either met or there's nothing there. There's no way that I want to have this to be some kind of a competition. So we are not including the students' scores. If it says met, they have reached the 65% level or higher, or if they have an IEP, they have attempted the test. Please keep in mind that this must be taken and passed only once during their high school career. They cannot do this in 8th grade. It must be in high school, and it must be completed prior to receiving their diploma. We use the Qualtrics. Yes, yes.
I'm so sorry. Coming from Illinois, this is new information, so I'm really glad to hear this and like, oh, okay, this is something new. As you indicated, it could be done anywhere during those 4 years, but is there typically a class associated, like we finish U.S. history and we normally would give it at this time? Is there I'm just imagining everybody hitting senior year and not doing it. And I just wondered, is there just curriculum wise, is there a place where it normally falls?
Great, thank you, Sharon. Great
Tim,
question.
I can chime in from a school perspective if you want.
Sure, sure.
So at Memorial, what we've done typically is the first couple days of the second semester, we give it to our ninth graders in US history. This year, we're going to have to give it to both ninth and 10th graders because the 10th graders didn't take it last year. And our list of makeup kids is going to be much, much longer. So the first time we actually encounter the civics test is is at the end of the semester. And by then, any election results have been processed. Anything that is going to be changed is done by December. And so we know we're going to have a fresh test that has current information on it for the students. Then after we give it during classes, we run makeups for kids who need it for graduation. We focus on the seniors, but anybody can come in. So we do drop-in sessions during lunchtime. We do after-school sessions. Students can come, and if they are, we send them an email if they do not have met on their transcript for civics. And Tim was updating this once a week at one point.
Right, yes.
So every Monday we know we have current information basically for us to pull from to say, here's the kids that haven't met it.
Thank you, Ben. A couple other things. There is no civics test, excuse me, no civics course in the high schools. The last time students have civics, or when they actually have a course called that, is in 8th grade. And unfortunately, we can't give them this in 8th grade and have it count. And so other schools do this differently. I know that East High School has been already started to do this for their students in 9th grade. And yes, we do have some catch up to do. Yeah, we've got some work, and that's one of the things I want to talk about with you today. So let's see.
I had another
Okay.
quick question.
Yes.
Wondering, I had a teacher ask me if a student does not meet that 65%, how quickly can they retake the test? Can that happen the next day, or is there a waiting period for that?
Thanks for the question. They can take the test a second time immediately after. So what happens is the software is designed so that if they meet the expectation, if they meet that 65%, their ID is pulled and they cannot log in. So towards the end of the year, we have kids, especially seniors, who are logging in and can't get in, and they don't understand why. Well, actually, as a freshman, they took this and passed it. And so we have to keep that in mind. My suggestion would be to wait until the next day. Just give everybody a chance to back off and relax, and then go at it. And so they've seen it. There is no hiding the questions as well. So students can take a look at all the questions, and you can actually practice the test if you want. So we have, I mean, this is one of the things that actually happens at Metro School, the jail school, is this is an easy thing to cross off the list for graduation requirements because it does not take that long to do.
Perfect.
Currently,
Thank you.
Yep, you bet. As students move in and out, one of the things that we tried to do this year is to make this a much more efficient process. So it is updated now nightly. So students take the test, the next day their name will be out if they've met it. If a student arrives today, tomorrow their name will be in. At 6 p.m. I think it's updated. So once they pass, they can't log in anymore. And you do need to have two things, both an MMSD ID and an MMSD email address. What we're finding is that because of the backlog and how things are working now, a student might be enrolled and have an ID today. 2 days from now, they'll get an email address. Well, in that time, Qualtrics has uploaded them, and now there are two entries because there are two different pieces of information. And so if that's the case, let me know. We've just discovered that issue and believe it's corrected, so hopefully you won't have to deal with that. All right, a couple things for this year. First of all, the last 2 years, we had waivers from the state that we did not have to do this, but this has to come from the legislature. My guess is there will not be a waiver this year, period. So all students, in order to graduate, will have to have this in place. Our last 2 graduating classes did not have this requirement because of the pandemic. Now, there's a huge backlog. So I have a proposal that we do something different this year. I'm looking for feedback, and hopefully in the next week or so, we can kind of come up with the final solution. My proposal is this: for 1 year only, just this year, in order to catch up the backlog of students who weren't able to do this over the course of the last year, is that we take off some of the restrictions from the software. Currently, students are only allowed to take this between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. So I would look for feedback as to say, should it be 24 hours? Should we wait until allow it midnight as being the end? So that way a student now who has, for instance, football practice or volleyball practice or some kind of club that's on a regular basis doesn't get home until a late hour, they can take it at home. And that's the second part, removing the restriction that it has to be on the MMSD network. We've kept that in place because I want to ensure that there is some kind of semblance of actually running this test and administering it in an organized fashion. But because of the pandemic, I am willing to consider to remove that restriction. And I am going to just kind of hold on that right now. And I would like you to just send me an email as to what your thoughts are. So that's what I'm thinking about. I will email everyone who is invited to this meeting and get some feedback and then share that with you. So any other questions about the civics test that I can help with? All right, let's keep moving. All right, so now this is a little out of order from the agenda, but Sarah, I want you to jump in whenever possible and whenever it's appropriate. So first of all, registration for AP exams is up and running. It has been going for a couple of weeks now. We've got a good start, but please keep in mind that the deadline for exam registration is October 24th. And that's it, except for those that are, there are just a handful, small handful of spring only courses. Oftentimes it's macro or microeconomics. If they are not being offered in the fall and they're only offered in the spring, there will be a very short window for registration. Then we'll connect with the staff and the students. So the cost has remained the same this year, $110 for most exams, $140 for the seminar exams. So I think, Sarah, is that what I do with that?
Yeah, that's mostly just an FYI for you all. There is, at least at the, for the high schools, there is a dedicated AP coordinator who is managing the communication about this, and they're already rolling with this information. So if you have any questions about AP exams, you can definitely bring them to me. I can answer most questions, and if not, I'll try to find you an answer. And Tim, actually, Sharon has a question in the chat.
I did see that. So Sharon, I don't know for sure if ESSER funds can be used to pay for this. We have done in the past. So AVID students will often have an exam paid for. Other groups of students have had that taken care of by each individual school, but not as a district. So I would be interested in looking at that and seeing what's up. So,
and additionally, I'll add, in case AP exams in our district is new for anyone, that anyone who is currently qualified as a free and reduced fee status for their student, they do not pay anything for AP exams. The district covers those costs. So that's another piece that we are able to cover.
also, just a reminder that we are a district that does multi-site, multi-school testing. So that means schools themselves do not have to give the AP exams at school or find a place. We are currently, we're using the Alliant Energy Center, and all students in the district test at that location and on the same date at the same time. So when we get closer, we'll certainly be sharing more information with you about that, and probably asking if anyone can help us proctor the exam. But I digress. So, okay, had a question about that. Any others? We're almost done for the day.
Tim, I'm so sorry. It's always the
Oh.
AP questions for me. With the Alliance Center and everyone taking the test there, is it going to be just like it was last year? I felt like there were dates that came out and, oh, this group has a test on this day. Was that because it was virtual, or this will be everybody tests? Because kids take 5 and 6 exams. So how does it work at the Alliance Center?
I can answer that question. So for the special year, the last 2 years, there was a special year in terms of the College Board offering online exams. They will not offer them online this year. At this point, they're planning on all pencil paper, and it is planned for them to be on their designated dates, just how they were in the past. And so for Alliant Energy Center, at this time, we are still planning for everyone to be testing by the College Board's dates and times. And if they have 6 exams, they're taking those 6 exams during the designated dates from the College Board at this point in time. And probably, I'm guessing we are not going to have any online options this year.
Okay, and I apologize. I've worked at middle school for 23 years, so we never talked about AP. And then my daughter just took her first AP test last year as a freshman. So I'm like, I'm still learning. Forgive me.
Yeah,
everyone,
absolutely. And
for silly questions.
this will be my 9th year doing AP. So if anyone ever has any questions specifically about how AP exams work, I'd be happy to meet with any of you to kind of break down what it looks like and what our district policies look like, and answer any questions like that.
Thank you. Now we'll be continuing to have AP on the agenda for our meetings as we move forward. Okay, let us talk about Aspire, because we also have input on this particular piece. So just the background again, ACT Aspire is given in the spring. It's required for all students in 9th and 10th grade. There are 5 subtests in the Aspire test. It is computer-based, and it is actually quite long. It is longer than the ACT. So it's a pretty intense time for students and staff. Keep in mind that while that's also happening, grade 10 students have the forward exam, but only the social studies test to complete per state law. So we've got a lot of testing coming up in the spring. Just so you know, the scores for the ACT Aspire are now included in the school report cards, and they are made publicly available. So it is kind of a big deal again, just like the forward and the ACT itself. So here's the question. When are we going to give this test? Typically, we have in the past, I mean, several years ago when this first happened, we did this, each school set up their own days. We've tried 9th grade in the morning on day 1, 10th grade in the afternoon, and flip-flopping on day 2. Recently, we found actually a better situation is to have a 9th and 10th grade day only. Just like the ACT, which this year I believe is on the 2nd of March. I'll have that date for you. We'll be talking about that shortly or next time. Have a 9th and 10th grade day only, where only those students attend and take the test. So it's you get the test done on one day. It kind of allows you to set the conditions for the testing, so bells can be turned off. You don't have announcements disrupting, etc. We have worked continuously with tech services to actually make this happen on student Chromebooks, so it should not be an issue anymore. So here's the test window for this year. It opens on April 4th and it closes on May 4th. In the past, what we have done, first of all, we've avoided Mondays because of the early release. We've also tried to put that day earlier in the window so that it would allow for the maximum possibility of A, accommodations to be completed, and B, for collecting students who missed the day and provide them the opportunity to take the Aspire. So without actually, having any conversation, I would propose that we look at the 6th of April. I don't know what that date would look like, what's going on, et cetera, but I'm just going to suggest that we have a day that we propose to senior leadership and get that on the calendar as a 9th and 10th grade day only. And I am looking for some feedback to see what are your thoughts. And again, I'll put this out in an email to everyone so that we get feedback from everyone. So no decisions today, but I need to have some feedback.
So Tim, have you looked or asked when spring sports begin? Because having it, if it's possible to do it the week that there are no sports, winter or the
Right.
winter sports are done and spring sports haven't started, but I don't even know if that's in this window. That could
And
be.
I think it's actually probably earlier that week or so takes place. Someone's state basketball tournament for boys and girls, and just prior to track and baseball, et cetera, starting. But yeah, I'll take a look at that and see what's up.
But it's still, I think that the earlier the better, because then you're not, you have fewer contests that you might be in conflict with. I'll check with Jeremy Schlitz, our athletic director, and find out whether a Wednesday is better than a Tuesday or a Thursday, potentially with conflicts, because that's keeping your makeup list really short is potentially a wonderful thing. But I like the idea of Wednesday the 6th. You're right, it gives you the month. It's right after spring break. Kids should be fresh.
As fresh as they're going to be.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts by anyone? Okay. Again, what I'll do is I will propose a date. I'll give you time to think about it. I'll lay out some of the pros and cons, some of the issues, and we will go from there. And hopefully within a week or so, we'll get that out and then you can respond to it. All right. Finally, the last thing for today, just a reminder that as we approach testing again, and this won't really affect high schools until we get to access testing, but annually there's a chance for families to opt out of testing. It must be done in writing. If an email is okay, it's just fine. It needs to have the student name and what test that the family has chosen to opt their child out of. Forward that documentation to either Sarah or myself. If they did this last year, that's great, but this year is a brand new year, so we start all over again. Just so you know, yes, go ahead.
I think it's wise just to say that access is one where they can't opt out, just so we know, so
Yes.
people are trying to. That happens every year.
Yes, thank you, Peg. I appreciate that. Access is not, there is no choice to opt out. Those of you who have been through the ACT know that there's a did not test reason or code that has to be put in. Access just simply says, no, you can't opt out. And what we did last year was we had them decline to test, which, while is pretty much semantics for no, I'm not going to test, it also includes refusals. It includes students who just didn't show up, etc. So access is one that we do not allow families to opt out. Again, hopefully if we're back in person for all of this testing, which I'm sincerely hoping we are, it gets a little bit easier. please keep in mind that this does have an effect on all our schools, as the state assessments are used by both the state for the report cards. The federal Department of Education uses it for accountability for ESSA. I'm going to be working on some information to be shared with families on why is it important that we do these tests. So to kind of counteract what we did last year, which is essentially open this up to anyone, just so you're aware, at the elementary level alone, we had over 3,500 students opt out of tests. So that's quite a few. I think at the high school, we ended up with about a participation rate of between 50 and 60% on the ACT, which is not even close to where the federal government wants us to be. And so we'll talk about that as we get closer, but I just wanted to remind you that this is an annual thing. Finally, our new department, Assessment and Learning Supports, is offering office hours, department office hours, every Monday and Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. In the agenda is linked, the Zoom link. It's a different link for Monday than Wednesday, so it's there. Sarah and or I will be at each one of these, and we've got that on our calendars. So if there are questions, concerns, et cetera, about data use, about in time summer school, but about assessments, that's an opportunity for you to connect with the department. However, please keep in mind that Sarah and I are always look forward to your emails. Kira, who is supporting with the data side, is also really good about responding, and I'm so looking forward to working with her for the remainder of this year. So, all right, I am going to stop sharing there and see if anybody has any general questions, and then I'm going to stop recording. So, any general questions?
I just put in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop recording, and then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share my phone number. So